Hey guys, welcome back, and here we go with the poem The Prelude. So if you haven't watched the first video, which is on London, I kind of go over at the beginning of that video what this series is all about, which is the 7 chosen poems that I would choose to revise and really learn quotes from the AQA Power and Conflict anthology. The Prelude, number 2. So, why have I chosen the Prelude? Well, it's definitely a power poem, and this one is all about the power of nature. I think, there are lots of poems on the power of nature in the Power and Conflict anthology. This is my favourite choice because I think there's loads of content here. It's quite a big poem. It's quite chunky. It's quite meaty. There's lots to get out of it. So you can choose your 2 language, 2 structure, and 2 form techniques like really easily. Like a lot of people would prefer Ozymandias because Ozymandias also has a lot of power of nature in it. The reason I don't choose it is because it's so short. It's a sonnet. It's 14 lines long. It's not a lot of content there. And actually the stuff that is on the power of nature, like the quotes, aren't great in it. So for me, the Prelude is a better option for your power of nature poem that you're going to compare against anything else, which is power of nature. Later on, I'm going to look at Exposure, which is also power of nature. So just in case you got the Prelude, and that's one of your 7 that you've revised, don't panic. You've also revised and learned quotes for Exposure. So you'll be covered for the Prelude and vice versa. So first of all, let's talk about form. Form is, remember, these are techniques that are unique to poetry. Poetic form. So that is rhyme, rhythm, volta, stanza lengths, anaphora, free verse, blank verse, caesura, enjambment, of which we have quite a lot of interesting caesura in this poem. I'm going to start with form. It's written in iambic pentameter. Brilliant to analyze. It's such a strong rhythm. Iambic pentameter is when there are 10 syllables in every line. Technically, it can also be 9 or 11 syllables. That would be called a feminine ending. Standard iambic pentameter is 10 syllables. And in AQA's Power and Conflict anthology, the ones that are in iambic pentameter are all the 10 syllable ones. So, one summer evening led by her I found. 10 syllables, and it will continue that pattern all the way through. And the reason we can link that to power is that it's a very strong rhythm. It's got energy behind it and power behind it. One summer evening, led by her, I found a little boat tied to a willow tree. Bum 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 bum. So it's got this sort of like inevitable quality to it. Every line, it's unbroken, although we're going to talk about breaking the iambic pentameter in a minute, but it's got real strength to it. And of course, this is about power of nature, like the strength of the peak that we're about to hear about, that scares the guy in the rowing boat and gets him to row home and messes with his head. So iambic pentameter is definitely what I would be analysing here. It'd be one of my form techniques. Now, what goes along really nicely with the iambic pentameter is the use of caesura. Caesura is hard punctuation within a line, normally in the middle of a line. So by hard punctuation, I mean full stop, exclamation mark, question mark. I don't bother analysing any caesura that isn't one of those 3 pieces of punctuation. If it's a comma, I'm not interested. It's not powerful enough. It's not powerful enough of a piece of punctuation to really disrupt the flow of the line. So it's just not that interesting. This poem has lots of caesura in it. Now think about what that does to that iambic pentameter. It puts a hard stop in the middle of it. It breaks that flow. So how do we analyze that? Well, we can analyze it in that it has a weakness. There's a weakness that's being created through that caesura. And what is the weakness in this poem? It's man. It's his mind. His mind is weakened by his sudden realization of the power of nature. So the caesura matches really nicely with the iambic pentameter, because you can talk about the strength of the iambic pentameter, which could be power of nature, And the caesura is the breaking of his mind or his spirit when he's so like traumatized by this experience. So straight up, that's probably what I'm going to go for with my two form techniques. You could talk about the fact that it's one big stanza, which reflects the size of the peak and the power of the peak. That's totally cool. It's quite easy to analyze. If, you feel that you're not that confident with talking about iambic pentameter, definitely talk about the fact that it's one big stanza. So that's form out of the way. Let's look at the language, which is going to be in green. And I'm going to look straight away at one summer evening. Led by her, I found the willow tree, glittering idly in the moon, sparkling light. I'm in that area there. Now, think about the language that's being used here. Glittering idly, summer evening. There is definitely a tone of almost like romance. It's a very romantic feel to it. Now, there's a massive shift in tone halfway through and the language changes, which we'll come on to. But have a look at that line where it says troubled pleasure. This is foreshadowing what is going to happen when he eventually sees the peak. Troubled pleasure is an oxymoron because pleasure is very positive, but troubled is obviously negative. So there's a clash of those words. So the oxymoron unsettles us. We feel uncomfortable when we hear about the troubled pleasure. So there's this really nice feeling created at the beginning with a little bit of foreshadowing, which all changes later on. And in fact, where I've put that blue line there, guys, where it says shift in tone, everything above that, or mostly everything above that, is really positive. Look down at the bottom as well. It went heaving through the water like a swan. Nice simile there as well. So the first half of the poem is all this really nice sort of like pleasant tone, and then it all kicks off. So everything below that blue line where we have that shift in tone, which is a structural technique, which I 100% would be memorizing, the shift in tone halfway through, which we can also call a volta, but I'm not going to go there. Shift in tone. Now you're going to be learning a quote anyway from that first half. And you're going to be learning a language quote as well from the second. So now you've got your evidence for your shift in tone. Happy, killing two birds with one stone. So it all changes when we get a huge peak, black and huge. Think of that repetition of huge, really simple to analyze, but an absolute banger. Huge, communicating that power of nature, the size of this peak. As if with voluntary power, instinct upreared its head. This is probably one of my top language quotes. Why? Because there are so many techniques in it. As if is a simile. Voluntary power, you've got the word power to analyze, and then upreared its head. It doesn't have a head. Upreared means to lift. So now it's got this physical quality to it. Personification. So again, you've got lots of techniques for the price of one quote. That is an absolute winner for me. And growing still in stature, the grim shape towered up between me and the stars. Again, brilliant to analyze. If you want to choose that quote, I would 100% back you on that. Grim shape, you can analyze the adjective grim. Towered up between me and the stars, maybe a bit of hyperbole. There's this idea that his way to heaven or God is blocked by this huge peak, which is of course representing nature. And it continues as well. These language techniques all to do with how the peak is being presented to us, and measured motion like a living thing. So the simile, like a living thing, again, more sort of personification here, making it feel like it's out of control, Measured motion, a little bit of alliteration too, followed by a caesura, strode after me with trembling oars. Now you can see that shift in tone, right? Before we had summer evening, glittering idly like a swan. Now we've got trembling oars. So we can really see that shift in tone and shift in emotion here. And so then the poem moves into its final little part, which is all about the aftermath. So structurally, you've got the beginning, romance, The middle, the climax, that shift in tone and fear, and then the resolution, the aftermath, how his mind is completely thrown by all of this. So he goes home in, quote, grave and serious mood. So he's really affected by it all. I would pick out and maybe quote, there hung a darkness, because it's a metaphor. Darkness symbolizing fear, worry, evilness, perhaps. And that is his mind. His mind is filled with this fear. It's hanging over him, this realization of the insignificance of man versus nature. Nature is, the thing that can conquer all of man. And this fits into the context, which I'm not going to go through, but definitely do your research. This is a Romantic era poem, which means it's focusing on a lot of the insignificance of man, the realization that man is fallible. So the Hunger Darkness is really good for that shift in tone and also that metaphor. No familiar shapes remained, no pleasant images of trees or of sea or sky, no colours. Think of that repetition of no, bit of anaphora as well, in the pattern of word no at the beginning of the consecutive phrases is repeated, which we can call anaphora in this context. So that repetition helps to emphasise the fact that his whole life has changed. Nothing is the same. There's no pleasant images of trees. It really helps to highlight how emotionally affected by this he is. But huge and mighty forms. Look at that repetition then again of huge. Just like we had huge peak, black and huge. Now we've got huge again. It's like he can't get it out of his mind. This terrifying experience with nature. Mighty forms that do not live like living men, moved slowly through the mind. Metaphor, can't literally move slowly through his mind, but it shows how it's stuck in his mind. He is traumatized by this experience, and it finishes, and were a trouble to my dreams. Obviously, this idea that it's stuck in his head. Actually, it's a really interesting link there to Remains, in the poem Remains, where he says, and the drink and the drugs won't flush him out. He's here in my head when I close my eyes, dug in behind enemy lines. Interesting little link there. Not that I would generally compare the Prelude with Remains, probably, because one's power of nature and one is sort of conflict and power of memory. Although there is power of memory in this little section here, in the aftermath or resolution of this poem. So main ideas: power of nature, weakness of man. Boom, done, easy. As I said, Ozymandias has the same, but I don't think there's as much content in there. And I don't think it's as interesting as this. I think there's way more choice here. And you can really get into all of these kind of ideas. And the imagery is so powerful in this. And I don't think the imagery is as powerful in Ozymandias, which is why it's not in my top 7. At the bottom of this page, you'll see down there's a really brief little summary that a student of mine has written, which I quite liked. It's quite, it does the job. If you do want to read that, click pause and have a look at it. I'm not going to go through it here. And that is the Prelude, one of my top 7. This 100% is going to be my Power of Nature poem, along with Exposure. If you like the video, if you found it helpful, do like it, because it actually kind of does help. I'm sure you all know how this kind of algorithm-y thing works. Loads of creators talk about it all the time. If you have any questions, comments or anything, leave them down below. If you're my student, thank you for watching the video, particularly because I probably told you to watch it. So thank you. I will see you in the next lesson. Let me know how you found it. And other than that, guys, thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one.